Welcome to SUAANGAN. I'm your host, Janine Blake. On today's program, we bring you a profile of Captain Cecil Hansen from Canadian North, one of the Norterra group of companies.
I was born in the Klavic in 1946. My mother was Kathleen Newtick. My father's Hans Hansen. And I lived in the Klavic until I moved to Inuvik to go to school in 1964. My dad was a trapper during the winter, and my mother helped him as much as she could. She had many children to raise, and during the summer he operated a coal mine, so during the winter we went to school, but most of the summer we spent down at the coal mine with the whole family. It was a good life, but we had to get an education, so we all went to school in the Klavic until we reached grade 9, and then into Inuvik in a stringer hall for the rest of the high school. I graduated from high school in 1966, 67 thereabouts, and had big plans to join the RCMP, but started hanging around with Fred Carmichael down at the shop. He had airplanes on floats in the summer and skis in the winter time. And eventually, I think, it just evolved that I wanted to be a pilot, and Fred was very helpful. If it hadn't been for him, I don't think I'd be where I am today, so I owe him a great debt. Started flying in 1968, and that's all I've ever done since.
You know, we've known the family for years. We all grew up in a Klavic, and I had an air service going, and he was coming out of high school, and of course seemed quite interested, hanging around the airplane base a lot, and his brother worked as a mechanic there, so he's around a lot, and so we saw a lot of potential, so we kind of encouraged him, and he got interested, and I guess the rest is history. He is a very good, eager worker, you know, and we went out, and there's he and another fellow that were taking flying at the same time, and we bought a little two-seater airplane, and they went south. They took their training at a flying school here in Inuvik, and then to build up their hours to the commercial, we bought a little two-seater or three-seater, and they did their flying around the Delta, building up hours to get a commercial. And once he got his commercial, we put him on line flying, and Cecil was very, very, you could see he had real potential to go places, because he was very eager, very careful, just a good all-around bush pilot at the time. And I know during training we sent him on what they call a cross-country flight, and it was down towards Arctic Red River, beyond Arctic River, about halfway to Good Hope actually, and then from there back across to a Klavic as part of his training. And on the way back from a Klavic, it was just before dark, it's winter, and he had a little problem with the engine. Actually, what happened is the oil cooler froze up, and it started pumping some oil out. He noticed it, so he did a forced landing between here and the Klavic. And I went out myself and went to pick him up, because I think he'd raided in or something, and he was doing a forced landing. And it was about an hour before we got there, but by the time we got there, he was all set up. He had, you could tell he was from the bush, because he'd gone up on the riverbank there, found a good spot, and he built himself a nice big fire, had a real nice comfortable place, you know, branches down, and all set, just in case it was getting late, just in case we didn't make it for the night. He was prepared. He had his blanket there and ration kit and everything. It's all set, and that told me I never had to worry about Cecil again, because he knew how to look after himself in the bush. And as soon as he recognized a bit of a problem, he landed the airplane and made sure that he got down before it was too late. So throughout his career with Ranger Air Service, he never looked back. He was eager to make the next step. We started him on the smallest airplane and gradually take step by step up to the larger aircraft. Before he left us, he was flying the DC-3s, which, are like, 28, 30 passenger airplane, and did very well. Of course, we had, there was another local fellow, as many of you know, Tommy Gordon was also another pilot at the time. He was a couple of years ahead of Cease, and I think he was an inspiration as well. But those boys were both in training at the same time. They loved baseball, and that's the only complaint I had about them, was that they'd sometimes rather play ball than go fly because they're afraid. And I remember one time going up to the ball field, and I had to lay the law down. They're good boys, they're good friends too, and so I had to go up. So look at you guys, you gotta make up your mind. Either you're gonna play ball the rest of your life, or you're gonna take this flying serious. Now make up your minds. They both just smiled at me and said, okay, we'll be right down to do the trip.
I lived in Inuvik and worked for Fred until about 1973. And 1973 moved to Edmonton and started flying for a company called Gateway. We had light twins and twin otters and DC-3s. In 1976, I worked for Imperial Oil for a short time before joining Dome Petroleum, and that is one of the bigger and better moves in my life. Went to Calgary for working for Dome Petroleum, and they were expanding at a great rate at that time. I was flying a Twin Otter, and within 2 years I was flying corporate jets, and within 4 years I was flying 737s for them. I stayed with Dome until 1988, and an opportunity came to join Ward Air, so I left Dome and went to Ward Air, and flew for Ward Air for about a year and a half, until they were taken over by Canadian Airlines, and we thought it was time to leave. There's an opportunity in Australia, so me and a bunch of my friends went to Australia in 1988, and stayed there until last year, so 12 years in Australia, and now it's back home.
From Inuvialuit to Australia.
Yeah, it is a big move, and there are a lot of airplanes. From the time I left Inuvialuit till I got to Australia. I left my first job with Fred was flying a 180 on floats, and my last flight in Australia was on a 747-400 from Japan to Sydney with 411 people on board.
SUAANGAN will return after these messages with more of our profile of Captain Cecil Hansen from Canadian North. So stay tuned to APTN, the Aboriginal People's Television Network. We're back with our profile of Captain Cecil Hansen from Canadian North. Canadian North, the Northern Transportation Company Limited, and Welco Beals Manufacturing Incorporated are the three companies under Norterra Incorporated. Carmen Loberg is the president of Norterra, and he gives us a history of Canadian North.
Canadian North is we like to call it the premier jet operation in Northern Canada, passenger and cargo airline. The history of Canadian North really starts in the Western Arctic, where it's been flying into Yellowknife, Norman Wells, and Inuvik for some 30 years. And we were able to purchase that company in 1998. So we took over that operation from Canadian Airlines before it got swallowed up by Air Canada. So we do flying throughout the Western Arctic, throughout the Eastern Arctic, and we fly out of 3 southern gateways in Canada. We have departures out of Edmonton, Calgary, and Ottawa, and then fly through all the northern communities that we serve.
Okay, with Canadian North, one of our best days of flying, I think, is the trip that I'm on today. It's from Edmonton to Yellowknife, Norman Wells, Inuvik, and return. We had to sign on at 7 o'clock this morning, so I got there about 7:15, grab a cup of coffee, give yourself some time to prepare for the flight. Today we were quite busy out of Edmonton because because the highways closed here, we were carrying a lot of cargo, so we had, the airplane was just about as heavy as it could be out of Edmonton today. So we had to look at all the amount of fuel that we could carry and look at our landing weight in Yellowknife and the weather in Yellowknife. They're forecasting freezing rain. We had to look at carry enough fuel to make sure we can get to our alternates. So it is quite involved this morning, but we got to Yellowknife and the weather really wasn't that bad. Most of the cargo was for Inuvik, so we had the same problems out of Yellowknife. Into Norman Wells, we were a little bit weight restricted out of Yellowknife, but from Norman Wells to here we were pretty good because the weather's much better and we didn't have to carry as much fuel. Going back, it'll be the same thing. We still have to go through the weather that might be around Yellowknife, although it's forecast to get better. And then we'll be back into Edmonton tonight at 6:45, so it'll be about a 12-hour day. But it's a good day. We're going to fly in the 12 hours of work. We're going to probably fly 7.5 hours, which is about all you want to do in a day, and 6 landings, which is pretty busy, but it's a good day. You want to make sure that everything goes smoothly. You don't want to get put into a position where you have to make a major decision. You always want to keep yourself with options, and that's if we do that, the day goes really smoothly, and there's nothing that really concerns you. You just sit there and make sure everything's like you planned it, and if it's like you planned it, you don't have any problems. It just goes smoothly. Well, you can. We do it so many times, and we do the cockpit check is so routine, and you're really not doing anything. You're just looking for something that's out of the ordinary. You know which switches are supposed to be on, which lights are supposed to be off, which lights are supposed to be on. So after a while, it's just a matter of a constant flow. And if you see something that's out of the ordinary, you fix it or have it fixed. You sit in the back of the airplane and so you think this is very boring because you're going to sit in the airplane for 2 hours from Yellowknife to Inuvik. But for the 2 hours that you're up there, people up in the front, we're always very busy. You know, we're always checking things. We're always making sure that all the instruments are working. We're always checking, making sure that the weather is not changing. We're always making sure that we're on track. We are where we're supposed to be. So we're always planning ahead for just about any anything that might happen. So it's not a matter of just sitting there and going from Yellowknife to Inuvik. It's a matter of sitting there, being on top of everything, making sure you know where you are and what you're doing and where you're going, basically. I enjoyed flying a 185 years ago, but I was younger then, and I probably couldn't handle it anymore. I'm probably too old. And I enjoyed the 185. I enjoyed the Twin Otter, and I enjoyed the 747. It was such a big airplane, and it was so gentle and so responsive. It is very good, very easy, and very, how do I say it? It was very responsive to flying. It was a pilot's airplane. I started with just a commercial license with Fred to fly single-engine airplanes, and he acquired DC-3s and Aztecs, and then I went and got a twin-engine rating, an instrument rating, and then to fly the DC-3, I had to get an airline transport rating. So that was the top of the licenses. So I had an airline transport rating in about 1973. From then on, it's just a matter of learning each airplane as you are put onto that type. Like to go on the first corporate jet, I had to go down to Wichita, Kansas for 6 weeks and take ground school and fly simulators, and then fly with a training captain for 2 or 3 weeks. And then after that, you're checked on type every 6 months. And it's the same today. I came back to Canadian North and had to take a 737 course all over again because I hadn't flown it for so long. So that was a 6-week process. Had to do flight training with a training captain and had to qualify again with a check captain. So each type is basically the same. The training requirements are basically the same, but it's ongoing. Every 6 months we're checked. As a matter of fact, in 10 days I'm back in the simulator for 2 days, and they're going to see if I can still fly the airplane. you have to be physically fit. We get a medical every 6 months. You know, so you got to make sure that you're healthy. Your heart's got to be good. Your vision's got to be good. Your hearing's got to be good. We do have pretty strict medical requirements, and we like to stay in shape. There's lots of food on the airplane, so you shouldn't eat all that. Canadian North, I've only been at it for a couple of months, and it's a learning curve. I've been in Australia for 12 years, so coming back to Canada, I almost have to de-learn what I learned in Australia and relearn the Canadian system. So I'm in that process right now, but it's going quite smoothly. The best part of flying for Canadian North is coming up places like Inuvialuit and even into places like Inuvialuit and running into people that I met so many years ago and haven't seen for so long. Sometimes I make a PA, and a lot of people are checking with the flight attendants, is that Cecil Hansen from Inuvialuit? And they say yes, and of course I got to go back for a quick visit. I'm enjoying that part of it immensely. It's so good to have people recognize my name and remember me from before, and they're all so proud of me when they find out that I'm flying the airplane.
Yeah, he's great, and I'm very proud of him. You know, when all those boys, when I see, you know, them flying 737s and wearing the uniform and 4 bars, and it makes me proud. And especially when I saw Cease on the jumbo jet, that one of our boys, right from the trap line to a jumbo jet, was really makes us all proud, I'm sure, you know, everybody in the North. And I hope it encourages a lot of our people from the North, young people coming out of the, you know, school today would take on the challenge, because there's lots of opportunities, you know, and I'm sure Cease will tell you, you know, I chose to stay in the bush all my life, and I've enjoyed every bit of it, you know, I have. And I guess some of the best, excuse me, days of my life were when I was flying into when I went to trappers camps. In the early days, we're all over, most of our flying was flying for trappers. And those are the best days of my life. Had lots to eat. Everybody fed you every time you landed. So it's great working with the local people. And let's just say I certainly enjoyed my career. And I'm very proud of the accomplishments of Cease going so far from, as I say, from the trap line to jumbo jet. And today he's back with us flying up here, so with Canadian North. And I think it should be a big encouragement for other locals to take on the challenge of flying, and not only flying, but as Cease demonstrated, and I guess Tom Gordon for sure, and Wayne Gordon, another one, you know, Wayne Ilanic. These are boys that are, you know, they're flying right up there with the best, you know, and to the largest aircraft today, you know, and it just shows that when you decide to do something, give it your all, and aim for the top, because it can do it, you know. And I think it's a real good example for people in the North, young people in particular, to carry on with their education, and whether it's flying or any work, aim for the top. And if you have the will and the desire, I think you definitely can do it, as Cease and the rest of them have proven.
Flying is such a, I think you really have to want to like it. You really want to have to want it, and you really have to work at it. There's, you know, I don't think it's a glamour job. I think for me it's a job that I really enjoy doing. But a lot of people look at it as a glamorous job, and they think just get to be a pilot and you see the world and don't have to work very hard. And some people get paid lots of money, but it's not like that. There's a lot of dedication, and you have to be totally committed, because You can go and get all the licenses in the world, but you still have to get a job. And those jobs are, you have to be lucky to get a job. There's so many people after that one position. You have to be lucky to get it. And throughout my whole flying career, I've been one of the luckiest people, I think, as far as flying is concerned. I guess it helps to be a good pilot. I don't know if I'm a good pilot. I'm proud of the job I do as a pilot, and people tell me that I do an okay job, so let them be my judge.
Get your pen and paper ready. Wilma Hendricks and Phyllis McFarlane will give you the question of the week. You'll have to phone in tomorrow between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to give your answer.
I'm Wilma, and we have the question of the week.
I'm Phyllis. Which airline does Cecil Hansen fly for?
I've always enjoyed that, and I don't enjoy it any more than I did before, but sometimes you got to go where the job is. And so I left Canada for 12 years, and I always thought about coming home because I missed the old cabin down at Shallow Bay and ice fishing down some of our secret creeks that we're not going to talk about. But it's great to be back. You know, I get a pretty good deal on Canadian North if I want to come up for visits. Yeah, my first flight into Inuvik, a few of them were there to see me, but I told them it wasn't anything special. I was here 20 years ago with the same airplane, same airport, so it's not as if I'm doing anything new. It has been, and my father passed away years ago, but he was my greatest fan. And when I think about my family and the way they're so happy to see me back flying in this part of the world, I think of my dad. If he was still alive, he'd be the proudest to see me today.
Production assistance for this program was provided by Norterra Incorporated. That was our program for this week. Thank you for watching SUAANGAN. I'm your host, Janine Blake, and I'll see you next week.